Hi, Lawton from Bad Truck Pottery here. Thank you for buying one of the take-home pottery kits. Today we're going to be showing you how to make one of the sort of really classic beginner pieces, the pinch pot turtle. So to do this, you're going to take your clay, you're going to pull off a piece about as big as a golf ball or a ping pong ball. You're going to roll it in your hands. You can roll it on the table too if you want. I have a piece of MDF here. It's medium density fiberboard. It's what we make our sort of working boards here in the studio out of. But if you have a piece of plywood, that would work fine, or cardboard, or you can work right on the table as long as it's a table that's okay to get dirty. So make sure you check with mom or dad first before you do this on the kitchen table. But we're gonna make this into a ball. And then I'm gonna hold it in whatever hand is my dominant hand, whatever hand I write with. So for me, that's my right hand. I'm gonna hold it here and I'm gonna take my thumb and I'm gonna press really hard right down in the middle and make a hole. We're making what's called a pinch pot. So technically, I've now made a pot. Congratulations, you're a potter. We can glaze this and fire it, and you could eat a very, very small amount of cereal out of it. But we're not gonna stop there, we're gonna keep going. So I'm gonna imagine this is the face of a clock, and I'm gonna turn it 1 hour and press again, and then another hour, and then another hour, and another hour, and keep going until I've gone all the way around. Once I've gone all the way around, I'm gonna work my way up the sides and sort of thin those out. Now, if it starts to crack a little bit, you can just smooth that with your fingers. I do have a bowl of water here, and you can use that, but I would try to hold off and use your fingers first. If you start right away with the water, it tends to become a muddy mess really quick. So we're gonna keep going. This clay is a good working consistency, and it should come to you in that way. The Ziploc bag should keep it nice and damp for several days, if not weeks. But if for some reason it gets a little dry out, it's a little hard, if you have a spray bottle of water, just spritz that, open the bag, spritz it, seal it up. You can kind of just flick water if you don't have a spray bottle. Leave it overnight or even a few hours, and that should be enough time to kind of rehydrate it a little bit. This is natural clay, made from clays dug out of the earth. It's a special mix from the company, but this is a natural product, so it will air dry, but you can also rehydrate it. So what I'm doing now is after I've gone all the way around and I've smoothed my cracks, I'm going to sort of continue with that and then also feel for any areas that are a little bit thick, and I'm applying a little bit more pressure, squeezing those a little bit. My goal is to try to get this an even thickness all the way around. The pot's really only as strong as its thinnest spot, so having extra thickness doesn't really help us, and we can work that into the form to make it a little bit bigger, which is great. So we'll have a nice big turtle here. Now, those of you who are problem solvers or like guessing at mysteries may have put together that what we are making in this case, this certainly could be a cute little bowl to keep just as it is, but we're making the turtle shell. So if you turn it upside down, that's the turtle shell. So I'm gonna set that here, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of clay, about a marble size. I'm gonna roll this into a ball again. Again, you can roll on the table if you want. And then you could keep it just as a round ball, but I like to sort of make it a little bit longer because I think that looks more like the head of a turtle. I'm just sort of smoothing out the cracks, kind of tapping and shaping it. And now to join the pieces, a lot of people ask, is there like a special glue that you use for clay? Well, sort of. The clay makes its own glue. The way we join two pieces is called scoring and slipping. Scoring is just a fancy word for making scratches, and slip is what we call wet clay. So if you have some wet clay, you can certainly use that, but I just have water here, and the water is quickly gonna mix with the clay to make its own slip, so it'll work just fine. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make little scratches. You can go in one direction, or you can go in two. Crosshatch scoring, we call it. And we're gonna go on both sides where they're going to join up. So once I've done that, you can take your paintbrush that came in the kit, or you can just use your finger, and we're gonna dab a little bit of water in there. We don't wanna smooth out those scratches we made, we just wanna add a little bit of water. And the reason for that is, by making those scratches, right, if it was a smooth surface, it might kind of stick, but maybe not really. But by scratching it, we're kind of making it like this, and now it's gonna stick together. So I'm gonna push those two pieces together, kind of hold it for a second, let them sort of bond, and then we can set it down and keep working. So now we wanna make some legs. You can make these one at a time, or you can make them kind of in a whole batch. So I'm gonna show you how to make the whole batch. Take a little bit of clay, it's about half as much as we did for the first piece for the shell. I'm gonna roll it into a ball, and I'm gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna roll it out on the table. Until it's about as big around as I want the legs to be. If it gets a little floppy like that, a little flat, that's totally okay. And I'm gonna use this toothpick that came in your kit to cut it into 4 roughly equal length pieces. Certainly doesn't have to be perfect, we're just having fun here. And then these will be the legs. Whoa, those are really long legs for a turtle. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually cut those in half. Again, take these other pieces and put them back in the clay. We'll use those later. Yeah, that looks more like a turtle. So now we can decide what kind of turtle we want to make. Do you want it to be sort of a box tortoise that's kind of crawling around, or a sea turtle? For the box tortoise, you could kind of put these more underneath, maybe even stand it up on the legs. I'm going to do more of a sea turtle type. I think it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to take my scoring tool, and I'm going to score and slip. And I'm doing that on both pieces at the point where they're going to join. So I'm gonna take a little bit of water and dab that there. Try to smush that into place. I'm gonna repeat this 3 more times to attach the legs. And again, you can kind of put them underneath the shell or right up against the side of it. I think it looks pretty good either way. But this is your turtle, so you can do it however you want. And now we can kind of shape these. We can make them a little pointed, again, if we want it to be sort of a box tortoise, or you can just sort of flatten them with your finger. Just kind of round it first, and then flatten it to make it more like fins on a sea turtle. And now, when you've done this, it's important to kind of pick it up every once in a while, because it has a tendency to want to stick. And you don't want to do a lot of work and then have it come apart. So now I've got this. So you can set it back down. You can use your toothpick to make little toes too, which gives it a little bit of character. Now we're gonna make the tail. So I'm gonna take a little bit of clay. If you had some leftover legs pieces, you could use some of those, but I'm just gonna take a little clay to show you how to do it from scratch. It's a little too much, I'm gonna put that back. So this is just kind of like a really small marble, a little smaller than the head. I'll roll it up in my hand, and then I'll roll it back and forth to make it a little longer. And then I'm gonna kind of taper it, sort of squeeze it on one side, turning around. And then I'm gonna put that where the tail is gonna go. So I'm gonna make some little scratches, dab some water on both sides. Kind of put that in there. Again, kind of pick it up every once in a while, just make sure that it comes up from the table. If it does get stuck and a leg comes off, just stick it back on there. You might need to scratch and add some water, score and slip again. It's not the end of the world. This is all kind of reworkable. It's one of the great things about clay. Whoops, speaking of, there goes the tail. So I'm just gonna push that right back on there. Perfect. So we have a turtle. I think he looks pretty good, but he doesn't have a whole lot of character. So now is your chance to kind of have fun with it. So I like to do for eyes, you can take this round the back end of your scratching tool and just kind of press that in and make a little round eye. What I think looks a lot more fun is to take a little bit of clay, just a teeny bit, wrap that into a little ball, and then we're gonna make some little scratches on both sides, scoring and slipping, dab a little water, and then I'm gonna press that on there. So that gives them kind of a big sort of cartoony bug eye. And then to really give him some character, I'm gonna press in with the end onto this sort of buggy eye. And I think that gives him a lot of character. Hopefully you can see that on there. So we do that on both sides. We can repeat. You can use your toothpick to kind of give him a little smile if you want. I always like to poke a little hole for a little nostril, makes it look very sort of like an animal, like a reptile. It's got to have that. If you want to do kind of individual scoots on the shell, you can kind of trace those out. Go all the way around. However you want to do it. You could make these really sort of decorative and complicated and kind of outline all of them. If you've ever looked at kind of a turtle shell, they're shaped that way sometimes. So it's totally up to you. And then you can take your underglazes. These are special high temperature paints that can survive the temperature in the kiln. And you can use those to paint the turtle. Because each kit comes with a little bit of each color, these will go farther if you have a lot of different colors on the same turtle. So like on this guy, I might use green for the head and the legs, and then maybe brown and yellow for the shell could be nice. This clay in its raw form, or excuse me, in its unpainted form, under clear glaze is gonna be kind of an off-white, sort of light creamy color. So if you just leave it unpainted, it will turn that color. If you want it to be a super bright color, you can take a little bit of the white paint and paint that on there. So maybe a little white for the eyes, a little black down in the pupil. Be a cute way to do this. Now, just a little note for those of you, if you got your kit early and you got started right away, if you made your piece solid, one of the reasons that we made this hollow, one is that this way the clay goes farther, so we have a lot of clay left over. But the other is, if you put a really thick, solid piece of clay in the kiln, there's water that's like trapped in the clay, and it needs to come out when the kiln heats up. And if it's trapped in there, it will tend to crack the piece or blow it up during the firing. Not like a cool movie explosion, just more like a so by keeping it hollow, we keep that from happening. Now again, if you started early and you made your piece solid, you can use a spoon to kind of carve that out a little bit. You could even use the scratching tool to kind of scratch and clean it out. The general rule of thumb is we want to make sure that it's less than an inch thick in at least one direction. So, you know, if it's big and flat, that's totally fine. If it's kind of tall and thin, that's okay. We just don't want to have kind of like a big solid blob. So just a little note there. But yeah, so once you're finished, you want to make sure that you take your toothpick and carve your name or your initials somewhere on the turtle, maybe on a fin or underneath the shell. That way we know whose it is. Might be fun to put the date on here so you can look back and remember when you made this. And then you'll just want to send a message or have mom and dad send me a message to let me know when it would be a good time for you to drop it off. We can bring it here. Now just so you know, the clay, it starts out kind of really kind of floppy and soft, and then it gets what we call leather hard. And at the leather hard stage, it's fairly rigid and quite strong. But then after that, it becomes what we call bone dry. And you can tell it starts getting kind of lighter and dusty looking. When it gets bone dry, it's very, very brittle. You can bring it in leather hard, or you can bring it in bone dry. If you do decide to transport it bone dry, make sure that you pack it really carefully in shredded paper or newspaper, or maybe an old t-shirt. We just want to try to keep it from cracking or breaking on the trip. But like I said, we'll set up an appointment for you to drop it off, and then I'll fire it in the kiln up to about 1,850, 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll dip it in clear glaze. We'll fire it again, this time to about 2,240 degrees Fahrenheit-ish. Give or take a few degrees there on the glaze firing, and then I'll send you a message to let you know when it's ready to pick up. So again, thank you very much for buying one of these kits. We really appreciate your support during this time. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, or through my email at badtruckpottery@gmail.com. Be happy to help out however I can. And hopefully we'll get you in here, maybe do a class in the studio once things clear up a little bit. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day.